This video is sponsored by Upzone. Dear Diary. My friend Casey from eBay Miniature Rescue have already finished his painting of the Gaskull Traka for our collaboration.
Hey Emil, so I pretty much finished up my god school, and honestly I think I can probably do the rest of my army this week, but I don't know, we'll see, man. This looks nice though. Pretty happy.
And I haven't even decided on my color scheme. Selecting a color scheme used to be so easy for me, but when it comes to my dream project, I get analysis paralysis. How am I going to paint orcs together with him if I don't even have a color scheme? Luckily, the old 40k books are absolutely jam-packed with inspiration, color schemes, banners, lore, painted minis, and artworks that could give me inspiration for paint jobs. And if that wasn't enough, there's also plenty of Rogue Trader Orks available on the internet. And the first miniature that I did is one of my orc knobs. This one in a mega armor or whatever it's called. It's actually incredibly inspired or maybe even ripped off by the Secret Workshop, who did an amazing paint job with this one. And one of the most common questions in DMs I get is how did I paint my mega boss in my AOS army? And that's the orc that I has as a thumbnail for this channel, and it's actually a quite simple recipe. I start off with Mephiston red to set the base tone for the armor. I make sure that everything is covered. I add this and a tiny bit of black ink to the red and spray this from underneath using the airbrush. This creates the shadow points for the armor, and it comes into all of the crevices and the shadowy areas. And a lot of people think that red together with yellow is the most difficult colors to paint, but I'm gonna try to make it simple for you so you can see that it doesn't have to be that difficult. So with this red and red-black base on the mini, I just add the base color red from Vallejo to the palette and some white and start working my way up. The bigger the surface I make with the highlight, the more pink it's going to feel. So I want to make sure to keep most of the dark reds in the shadows, and using the red, the big surface that we have as our base will be the mid-tone, and then only add the whites to some final highlights to make sure that it's more like a reflected red. And as you might see, the highlighted surfaces are super tiny here. So that is what makes sure that it doesn't feel pink, but actually feels like a red armor that's highlighted. As for the metallic parts, I start with a black and then go up with Vallejo Dark Sea Blue, and then I just add a little bit more white and white the further up the highlights I get. I still want to keep it feeling kind of grayish, so I don't want to add too much color in there. On some spots I glazed in a little bit of a turquoise paint, but mostly it's just black, dark sea blue, and white. By the way, meet Stabby Steve. He lives in a 250 square feet apartment where there's absolutely no room for a full gaming table. Luckily, this week's sponsor Upzone have a solution to his problem. Instead of storing all of his gaming pieces in his bed, Stabby Steve managed to get a hold of an amazing copy of the new PopUp Terrain system that will launch on a Kickstarter in just 2 weeks. Absolutely epic designs for both dungeon crawlers, RPGs, and 2 huge setups for games like Warhammer. One pyramid theme that just looks killer. Seriously, I really want this one. And the more classic cathedral zone that will fit perfectly with sci-fi games. I'm really sad because I was supposed to have 2 copies and show you guys the gaming tables, but unfortunately they're stuck in UK at the border. But man, I'm really excited to try these out. Just look at the early promo material that they've done. They managed to fit an entire gaming table worth of terrain and gaming tiles in a tiny, kind of board game sized box. It looks really good. And to me, I really applaud the creativity here. They managed to bring out a completely new product that looks really good, and the engineering looks to be a masterpiece. So I can't wait to get mine. Made entirely from laminated boards and cards that is strong enough to hold your miniatures and strong enough to move around. So guys, if you're the least interested in getting these stuff, the Kickstarter launches in about 10 days, so make sure to follow the link that I put in the video description. You can sign up to be notified when the Kickstarter goes live, and I'm pretty sure that all of you will be excited. And once I get my copies, I will take some photos and post on Instagram so you can see how they look and what I think about them. Until then, make sure to follow the link in the description. So diary, here I sit. I'm almost done with the paint job of the Mini and I feel really happy about the colors, but the Mini have taken me something like 6 hours already, and there's so many tiny details still to paint, and painting NMM red isn't gonna fly on most of the regular boys because they don't have any armor. So I got back to the Ork books, started reading more about the lore in the books to find more inspiration. A lot of the old artworks and lore in the old books are quite different from the modern orcs. And I feel like instead of being these just super fighty dudes who are angry all the time and more being used as a comedic relief, the old orcs in these books are packed with nuance and the way that they live in their societies. There's a lot of information about that. And I feel like they're more humanoid than in the newer stuff where it's more about just fighty, wah. And that has given me a few ideas of maybe how I could build up an army and war bands from that. My mind starts going all kinds of places. Maybe I want to make an army into a hub village in a forest somewhere in between a few big orc cities, where orcs from pretty much any clan can land to fix their vehicles, get some food, or just hang out. Where a warband of snakebites are just as welcome as bad moons or evil suns. And one of the things that I often come back to is my roots. I grew up 50 meters from the woods, and this is about a 2-minute walk from where I live right now. And this is so much to do with my heritage and what I like and what I prefer when I choose colors. One of my kids often asks me, what's your favorite color? And the answer is pretty much always, it's like greens and browns. And the reason for it is because it's so deeply ingrained in my life from when I was born that this is what I prefer. These are my favorite colors. So if you look at all of the armies that I've painted, it's pretty much always greens, lots of leather, lots of browns, wood stuff, and yeah, this is what I get. So I'm starting to think that maybe what I should do is to try to go back to these natural colors, the ones that I prefer, the ones that I grew up with, the ones that I enjoy painting the most. So this is one of the things that if you want to figure out what your personal style is, what you prefer, try to go back, look at the paintings you enjoyed when you were a kid, the comic books that you read when you were a kid, or to the place where you grew up. I'm gonna try to paint a few figures using these natural earthy tones, and we can see if that's the way I wanna go. But before I go back, let's check in with Casey and see how his orc painting is going.
So I figured I'd give you a quick update on how far I've gotten on this army. Now, I said before I could probably paint the whole thing, and I think I'm still within reach of that. But, you know, batch painting and going through each individual model is proving to be a little more difficult than I guess I originally anticipated. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't progress. I've actually gotten more than half of this army done, but you can kind of see that there's this half painted bit over here that just needs work. So I'm just gonna...
Casey, believe me, I know. Even though I'm not painting a full army, I'm not even nearly close to what you have done. I'm focusing and pushing through just to finish this color scheme and to have a few miniatures finished so I feel that I can move on and do like the batch painting that you've been doing in your video. I'm using an airbrush to make sure that this color scheme will be viable for a big army. So I start by adding the darkest brown base tone, that's Rhinoxide, on all of the parts that will be some kind of brown. I then use the airbrush with thinned down Baylor brown from above on all of the parts that I want to have yellowy leather brown base. I'm then adding Deathworld Forest on all of the skin parts. Casey man, I'm out of Deathworld Forest. Do you have some for me?
Oh, yeah, man. Let me grab that color for you. Here we go. Catch.
Thanks, man. That's all I needed. I'm highlighting the green skin in a couple of different layers, starting with Elysian green. I'm then mixing in Vallejo Livery green, Flashgates yellow, and ivory to highlight the smaller surfaces. In some of the deeper areas, lips, etc., I add in red tones to give it more of a lifelike feel. And when mixing these, you can try around a bit to find the green-yellow tones that you want to have. I'm going with quite a saturated one, but using a lot of contrast, adding more ivory to make it pop. Since we airbrushed the shoulders with a thinned down Baylor brown from above, we don't get a super thick coverage, which means that when using our first brushed on highlights, we can use the same paint because this will be thicker and more vibrant than the one we used with the airbrush. I then gradually add more and more of the Vallejo ivory to punch the highlights even more and get really nice volumes on the shoulders. To get some variation in the browns, I'm highlighting the pants using a more red brown tone. Starting with Mournfang brown and highlighting up using Deathclaw brown at first, and then mixing in ivory to the Deathclaw brown to again make the highlights pop a bit more. For my non-metallic metal, I'm using the same recipe as I did with the knob I painted earlier. Base of black, using dark sea blue as my first highlight, and then gradually adding more and more white to selected areas to make it feel more reflective. I'm really starting to feel this. The next step is obviously to figure out where I want my bases to go, what environment they're in, how this city or village in the forest that I've built up for myself looks. I got a feeling that this can lead to something fantastic, and I'm really excited about it. And if I want to have the odd Bad Moon or Blood Axe or Evil Sons or whatever scheme of miniatures I want in the army, it can fit in right well if I just do the right basing for it. And the most positive thing is I'm not painting myself into a corner. If I want to be creative with something and just be nuts with a specific mini, I don't have to paint it just as I did with the last warband, but I can actually go outside of my comfort zones and paint 5 figures in a specific way or 20 orcs in another way. It can still fit because this village that they come from will be the basis for the whole army, and they can be from whatever clan they want. So friends, this is the start of my color scheme. I am definitely going to experiment more. I only have a few miniatures painted already, but before I go all in with the army, I want to make sure that I am really happy with it and I can paint it fast. So I'm going to keep tweaking a little bit on the color scheme, but hopefully it will end up looking really good. And one thing that I think is really cool with this orc project of mine, my sort of dream army, is that I get to do it as part of my Patreon community. Because right now there is a March of the Armies running on our Discord chat, and it's actually run by my patrons. So the whole project is very alive and running right now. So if you want to be part of that, like I am, building my dream army for March of the Armies, you can do like these awesome people who have already started uploading work in progress of their armies. There's still a few months to finish your project, so it's not too late to join in now. Also guys, if you aren't already subscribed to Casey, he makes some great painting tutorials, he posts videos every week, so go give him a follow and watch the collaboration video that we did because his orcs are looking amazing, so go check that out. If you've been enjoying my videos, this was the second one in my series of building my dream army. Please consider subscribing because I'm going to release more of these videos this coming year. There's going to be quite a lot of Space Ork videos actually, so we're only getting started. If you want to support my channel, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either go to my website, squidmar.com. If there's any of the tools that I use in my videos, I have them listed all on my website, squidmar.com. And all of the links under these products where I explain what I use and why I use them go to Amazon, and Amazon kicks a bit of money back to me if you follow those when picking up your stuff. A massive shout out to all of my top Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing. And with that said, have a great day. Bye bye.